Every day, an enormous share of the world's oil passes through one narrow corridor, the Strait of Hormuz. At its tightest point, it's only about 33 kilometers wide. Yet roughly 20% of global oil consumption moves through this channel between the Persian Gulf and the open ocean. Tankers leaving Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates all pass through here, because there is no real alternative route. For decades, analysts have asked the same question: what happens if the Strait of Hormuz closes? Most people imagine mines, missiles, naval battles. But the disruption that may now be starting is coming from somewhere much quieter: insurance markets. After attacks on commercial shipping tied to the escalating Iran conflict, major maritime insurers are cancelling or sharply raising war risk insurance for vessels entering the Persian Gulf. And that change alone can slow global oil flows. Global shipping runs on a layered financial system. A tanker isn't just a ship carrying oil. It's a floating asset worth hundreds of millions of dollars when cargo and vessel are combined. To operate, ships require insurance coverage that protects against multiple categories of risk. Standard marine insurance covers accidents, collisions, storm damage, cargo loss, but war risk insurance is separate. It covers events like missile strikes, naval mines, drone attacks, seizure by military forces. When tensions rise in a region, insurers add it to a war risk zone list. Ships can still pass through, but the premium increases, sometimes dramatically. Now, following attacks on commercial vessels, insurers are doing something more severe. Some are withdrawing coverage entirely. Others are pricing it so high that voyages become economically questionable. And that matters because nearly all Gulf oil exports must transit this region. The tension isn't whether the Gulf can produce oil, it's whether the oil can move. Energy systems are not just about production. They depend on an entire chain of infrastructure: pipelines, ports, tankers, financing, and insurance. When insurance disappears, shipping becomes extremely difficult. A tanker sailing without war risk coverage faces multiple barriers. Banks may refuse to finance the cargo, ports may deny entry, charter contracts can become invalid, and ship owners assume catastrophic liability if something goes wrong, which creates a strange situation. The oil still exists, the export terminals still operate, but the system that moves the oil begins to freeze. Most geopolitical analysis focuses on a dramatic scenario. Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, naval conflict erupts, global energy markets panic. But historically, disruptions often begin somewhere less visible. Insurance markets move first. Insurers operate on probability. If the likelihood of loss rises sharply, they reduce exposure. Sometimes that means raising premiums. Sometimes it means withdrawing coverage entirely. And when that happens, shipping companies pause operations long before a strait is physically blocked. In other words, financial risk managers can slow global energy flows before militaries ever fire a shot. Here is the mechanism step by step. First, security incidents occur. Attacks on commercial shipping increase the perceived risk of operating in the region. Second, insurers reclassify the area as a higher-risk war zone. Third, war risk premiums surge. What might normally cost tens of thousands of dollars per voyage can jump to millions. Fourth, ship owners reassess whether the voyage makes sense. A single tanker may carry cargo worth $70 to $150 million. Operating uninsured in a conflict zone becomes nearly impossible. Fifth, traffic slows, not necessarily a complete halt. But even small reductions in tanker traffic through Hormuz can shift global supply expectations, and oil markets react strongly to expectations. Now several actors face difficult decisions. Ship owners must decide whether to sail through a high-risk corridor with rising insurance costs. Energy producers must consider whether exports through Hormuz remain reliable. And governments face a strategic question. If insurers retreat, do navies step in? Historically, naval escorts have sometimes stabilized shipping during periods of conflict. Because when security guarantees increase, insurers may restore coverage. In other words, the insurance market and the security environment are closely linked. One shapes the other. The Strait of Hormuz has long been one of the world's most important strategic chokepoints. But the vulnerability of the corridor isn't only military, it's systemic. Global oil flows depend on a chain of invisible infrastructure: finance, contracts, shipping networks, and insurance markets. When any one of those links breaks, the entire chain tightens. Right now, the pressure isn't coming from a blockade. It's coming from the financial system that decides whether ships are allowed to sail. And if that system freezes, the question won't be whether the Gulf produces oil. The question will be how much of it the world can actually move.